he has shown everyone how to rest, allow people to serve him in a way that he couldn't serve himself. So I sang the song. And as I started finishing the song, I hadn't even actually got to the end. During the closing measures of the song, Nate sat up and looked his mother in the eye and said words that we wouldn't understand, but communicated with her in a really deep way. And then he had 6 weeks more life after that. So Nate has taught me so much about resting, that he had to rest, and yet he lived a life of joy. And that has been impactful on me, that really we should be doing things from a place of rest and not seeking rest so that we can work harder. Things should be done from a place of rest. So I love that song. It's close to my heart. And I actually changed one lyric so that we could say, when we rest in God, there is healing as well as closeness to God.
Wonderful thoughts for us. And I think that's something that perhaps some of us just don't get right. We are by nature doers, and therefore resting is a very hard concept. Obviously, this song is something that God's using to minister to people about his perfect rest. How do we get it from your standpoint? And I know music can do that. There are other artistic expressions that God can use to help people get into that state of rest. How would you address that? What would you say to someone that really recognizes that, well, he or she needs to be more in a state of rest with God?
That's a very big question,
yes,
Bob.
It is. Yes, it is.
There are so many answers to that, but most of it really is, let's turn our eyes on Jesus.
Sure.
There's a hymn there that I'm sure many of you know, turn your eyes on Jesus, look full in his wonderful face. And what happens next? The things of earth grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. And that takes us to a place of real rest, when we can open our hands and say to God, I give everything and everyone to you, Lord, and put yourself in a place of submission to Jesus. Take a breath, be still, be silent. Even if you're in the middle of a busy workplace, you can put your heart in a place of rest if you turn your eyes and your thoughts and your attention on Jesus.
Sharon Tedford joining us today, worship leader for several events here in Lexington, Kentucky. We are here at the Christian Product Expo, the 2022 summer show in Lexington. This is the Meeting House on Faith Radio. Well, Sharon, as we conclude, I mentioned forms of artistic expression. You're not only a songwriter and a worship leader, you're also an author, and you're an artist. Tell me about the type of art that you produce.
I am a watercolor artist. I do abstract watercolor art, and then I use pen and ink to design over the top of the watercolor, and I use Indian ink too. And in that, I hide tiny scriptures in the way that we should be hiding God's word in our hearts.
Wow.
And I absolutely love doing that. That's my place of rest. I use music as well, but I love to rest doing watercolor. And the fun thing about doing abstract art is you don't know how it's going to come out, and I just let God lead me in that, and it's been an absolutely beautiful gift for me to be able to do that. And I've only started doing that in the last 4 years, and it actually started as a skill or a fun hobby to do when you have writer's block. When you have writer's block, you should use a different kind of art, a different kind of creative expression to help you get out of it. And so I just did it for fun, and then people started saying, I want it. I want your work. and now I do that and in much larger quantities, and it's been such a gift for me, but I love sharing that with people.
So tell me how you merge together the watercolor element and the pen and ink element.
The watercolor and
the watercolor, and then the pen. You also use pen and ink.
Yes. Well, I guess I actually asked the Lord to help me develop a style that was mine and his, that together we could have a style. And it just was the way it was. When I'm on the phone, I'm a terrible doodler. Do you do that when you're on the phone? I just doodle squares and circles. And I thought one day, well, why don't I just put that over the top of my watercolor abstracts and see what happens? Because sometimes in an abstract, you can see that there's a shape or a form. And so I usually do flowers or buildings over the top of the watercolor abstract. And it just sort of came together. I really do commune with the Lord when I do watercolor. Wow. And it's a special place for me to be.